Hi, I'm so glad you're here with me this week. The topic is soul exhaustion, and I'll be jumping into that in just a moment. First, a special hello to my fans, listeners in Beaver Dam, Wisconsin. I got to tell you, I finally got to Wisconsin last week, and it was a surprise to me. I went to see my grandsons run in different races, so I'm excited I got to get there. So I'd look forward to going back and exploring it more. So let's talk about soul exhaustion. I got to tell you that when I chose to do this topic, it's been scheduled for months. It just happened to fall election week. And I think that it's a good thing. Everyone's tired of election notices and discussions, and half the country's upset about the result of the election. There's a lot going on. So it's probably a good time to discuss this because a lot of people are probably feeling it right now. What is soul exhaustion? When it's not your body, but your soul that's tired. And when we've gone through periods of extreme emotional or mental stress, our souls can go into temporary deep rest. And that can feel like the symptoms that are associated with being depressed. And as much as we might try to raise ourselves out of it by thinking more positively or trying to shift our state of mind through just forcing ourselves to be more physically energetic, it's likely we're still going to feel energetically low. And the reason for this is that our soul needs time to repair, just in the same way that they would for tired muscles or broken bones take time to heal. And even though our soul is not visible, it's every bit as important as the vessel, the body that it's contained in. And it's vital that we give it high priority in healing at the same way we place importance on damage to our body. Soul exhaustion can feel as if you're just treading water for hours while barely keeping your head above the surface of the water. And when your soul is tired like that, it's often a sign that you're out of alignment with your purpose. Your inner flame is flickering out, and it's time for some soul care. One of the most noticeable symptoms of a tired soul is the desire to sleep much longer than normal. And even when we are not asleep, we struggle to get motivated to just even carry out basic daily living functions. And that can be even to the level of feeling like getting out of bed in the morning is impossible. If we don't pay attention to our soul and we ignore the warning signs that our energy is being depleted rapidly, that can lead to severe conditions, long-term conditions such as mental health issues, depression, or chronic anxiety. When our soul is exhausted, we might notice that not only does our body feel like a lead weight we're dragging around and every moment is hard work, but all of our sensitivities are heightened and we may feel on edge, running on adrenaline. Things bother you that normally wouldn't, or bother you a lot more than they normally would. Little things that we normally feel able to cope with seem as if they're just too much to bear, pushes you right over that edge, getting on your last nerve. And you can become overwhelmed, even close to a meltdown at just the thought of dealing with anything out of the ordinary that life might throw your way. And life does like to throw those our way. So, how does this happen? I know what soul fatigue feels like. I've experienced long periods of it, and it's just this relentless ache that will not go away and a tiredness that cannot be cured. It's a fatigue that goes right through your muscles, your bones, and truly deep into your soul, tired like you've maybe never felt before. It's a tiredness that cannot be refreshed even after a good long night's sleep. A week's vacation gives you no sense of rest. Moderate exercise and a healthy diet are going to have no impact on soul exhaustion. A full set of routine labs that your doctor orders reveals nothing out of the ordinary. And even if you have a very careful plan for living life at a slower pace, it just seems to make no difference in how you feel. How do we even get to a place where our soul is so fatigued that we can't even imagine what it feels like to be rested? Can soul fatigue exist simply due to a life of our never-ending busyness? U.S. society certainly seems to value work over rest. Our culture is driven by productivity. We are often known by what we do rather than who we are. Few people have the luxury of being able to take a week's vacation followed by an intentional slowing of life's pace. Even if you want to, even if you're determined to, usually work won't let you or the kids won't let you. So, the busy nature of our society rarely allows that kind of opportunity for most of us. Salaried careers often require more than 40 hours a week work. Some people are working 2, 3 jobs, all kinds of side hustles just to pay bills and keep up with the rising cost of services and goods. And children have a whole host of activities that require parents to transport them. So some middle-aged adults are now caring for their aging parents while still working, balancing their careers. And in a desire to get back to society, we involve ourselves in numerous charitable activities too. So each of these is necessary and good, but it leaves us very little time to rejuvenate. For some people, soul fatigue happens with the injustice of being marginalized. If you cannot live your truth, then you cannot flourish as the person you were created to be. If you can't share your truth, you can't speak your truth, you're marginalized. When there are systemic barriers that keep you from living in freedom, or when there's large and powerful individuals or groups in society arguing that you don't even have a right to peacefully exist, it can lead to exhaustion. And that can manifest as racism, sexism, ableism, classism, feeling the need to prove your personal worth or combat fragile egos can definitely lead to soul fatigue. For other people, it's living with the result of grief or trauma. And it might be from a significant loss, such as the death of a loved one or a close friend, particularly if that loss was sudden and unexpected. Sitting with a child through numerous medical procedures will certainly take its toll. Whether it's a contentious divorce, chronic illness, experiencing a sexual assault, or being the victim of a crime, all of this can lead to that soul-numbing weariness that exceeds anything resembling common fatigue. Prolonged grief doesn't even have a place in this society. We're given a short number of days or weeks to grieve, and then it's expected that we just pop back to normal and jump right back into what our life was before. Someone experiencing grief that's incapacitating isn't given the space to adjust to it, to go through it. And that's evidenced by the fact that prolonged grief disorder was not even included in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders for the first time until 2022. I think just 2 years ago. For me, soul fatigue was the result of a series of devastating events. I experienced the death of close friends. I was isolated during much of COVID due to health issues. Then I was verbally and emotionally abused for years by people I thought loved me. Then my longtime friend and business partner died. And, through this, it kind of was a wave. I went in and out of it. And sometimes more than a year at one point, I felt alone and uncared for and even hopeless. I was walking on eggshells with some family and friends, and it was really exhausting. And during this time, I was trying to raise my frequency and keep going to help my clients. But as soon as my workday was over, I was flattened on the sofa, often sleeping hours, and then I'd sleep through the night as well. So it's just that oversleeping that's very evident with soul fatigue. So there's a lot of ways you can reach a point of soul exhaustion, and let's talk about some of the most common signs and symptoms that your soul is depleted of energy, or someone you know perhaps. Number one, during the day, all you want to do is lie down and rest or sleep. You're more prone to taking frequent naps, and you struggle to awake from it. When you do wake up, you feel as though you're still in this deep sleep, and go through the day in sort of zombie-like state where everything seems like it's moving slow motion. And during the night, your sleep is restless because you're experiencing turbulent, very realistic dreams and sometimes nightmares that just linger on the mind. The second one is that when someone asks what's wrong with you fail to have any clear or concise answers that can really explain how you feel. You know that something deep and complex is happening and it's at a level you haven't experienced before, but you can't really describe why you feel unable to shift out of that state or exactly why you feel that way in the first place. If they said, well, what's going on? What's the problem? You might not be able to verbalize it. Number three is feeling an intense aching sensation throughout the body. You could experience headaches, especially tension headaches, stomach aches, dizziness, ears ringing, and blurred vision with no medical reason underlying it. The next one is you feel as though you're out of sync with the current timeline. I'm seeing a lot of people reporting that right now. And when that happens, your mind's either operating a few moments before your body or a few moments slower, and it causes you to feel disoriented, fragmented. Next, all your emotions are intensified. So you might feel very emotional, tears flowing more easily, maybe getting angry easier, more anxious, and you feel as if your heart might burst with love or compassion or break if you're feeling heartache and you just devastation kind of going back and forth in extremes of emotions from one moment to the next. The next is feeling a profound sense of loneliness, even when you're around other people. Suddenly, you might be questioning who you can truly trust, who really cares about you, and who has ulterior motives that's around you in your life. Next, your bodies, your muscles feel very much weakened. And any moment, any movement you do can feel really exhausting. You lack energy. And exercise is no longer enjoyable. It just feels like hard work, and you have a really hard time getting yourself to do it. Next, you would experience chronic anxiety or mild panic attacks, maybe. I want to emphasize it's not about having every single symptom on this list, but if you have a number of them, odds are you've got some soul exhaustion going. The next one is having angry, resentful, jealous, kind of bitter thoughts about other people. And normally you're more of a compassionate, loving, forgiving person, and you don't tend to hold grudges. And the last one is feeling uncertain about your future, kind of jaded on about life in general, and no longer interested in hobbies and pursuits that you usually enjoy. The desire to just leave everything behind and start over in some way becomes more tempting by the day. But remember, you cannot outrun yourself. Wherever you go, there you are. So this is one of those situations that you've got to go through it to get over it. Keep in mind that if you're experiencing any of the symptoms I've listed, then it's a good idea to seek the advice of a medical professional because it could be related to some other causes and mental health causes. But our souls can feel burdened and fatigued and weary for a variety of reasons. You might have gone through or still be going through a breakup that's really taken a toll on your health emotionally and mentally. You might have suffered a tremendous loss and you're dealing with very heavy grief or facing a series of life changes, one after another, that's difficult to keep up with. And as a result, your daily reality is altering so much that it's beyond recognition. It's too much change too fast. Other reasons may be because we're surrounded by people whose energy feels toxic to us. Maybe their energetic frequency doesn't match ours. We're not living our truth. We're not speaking our truth. We're putting others ahead of ourselves, worrying more about what's good for them instead of what's good for us. People pleasing. And if you have trouble saying no, struggle to say no when you don't want to do something or go somewhere, that can lead to this. Or if we push ourselves too hard and then we reach burnout or just hit a wall. I've done it many times in my past. I really monitor myself more carefully now to avoid that. If you consume an unhealthy diet or you have addictions with things like alcohol, drugs, you're dissatisfied with your life, you're experiencing any form of abuse, you dislike your job, maybe you're holding on to the past instead of living in the moment. Whatever the reason, your body and soul have been thrown out of alignment. And so now they're going to require some gentleness, some time, and some care so that you can re-energize and get realigned. So, how do you do this? Number one, prioritize time for self-care. That is essential at this time. Number two, rest as much as you need to, as much as your schedule and your life will allow. Next, switch off technology and spend time doing the things you love, reading, art of any kind, dancing, singing, hiking, candlelight, water baths, sound baths, healing sessions. Just get out in nature, whatever feeds your soul, gives you joy. Even being around the people you feel comfortable with or watching favorite movies, all of that can start to turn things around. And it's a gradual process. It took a while to get you here. Now it's going to take a while to get out. The next thing is taking time for spiritual practices. So this is a good time to learn about the benefits of healing you can get from things like yoga, meditation, crystals, again, sound healing, sun or moon gazing, drumming circles, and you want to detox. So that means you want to eat and drink high vibrational, fresh fruits and vegetables, organic if possible, purified water. You're purifying your body at a cellular level, and all of this is just another piece to help you get through this. Avoid negative self-talk. I mean, that's a good thing to do all the time, but when you've got soul exhaustion, you really got to give yourself a break. Treat yourself with kid gloves. Whenever you catch yourself talking down or criticizing yourself, you stop, just stop right there, become aware of the words. And I think it's important if you said them out loud, say kind, loving words about yourself out loud. If you thought them, think those kind, loving words about yourself. And eventually you won't be doing this to yourself as much, or maybe stop altogether. Next is spend time focusing on breathing exercises, and one that will just sort of force your body to calm down. It's one of my favorites, is just sitting quietly and doing 10 deep breaths where you breathe in through your nose, hold it 2 seconds, and then you release it through your mouth in a long, slow hiss like this. See how long you can go. Let it out in a tiny hiss. 10 of those, and you'll notice that your body and your mind feel more calm, more centered. I learned that working at a psychiatric hospital, but I've put it into practice for myself for decades, and certainly for a lot of clients as needed. The last thing is be sure to practice grounding and balancing. There's a lot of things. There's some wonderful essential oil blends out there called Balance from different companies that you put on the bottom of your feet. Do it every day, multiple times a day if you need to. And grounding, you can do earthing. You can use a grounding mat. There's so many things that you can do. So there's something a lot of people who have soul exhaustion feel is the perfect remedy. And I'll tell you what it is. It's really a personal retreat. So when they're soul tired, they feel like they've got to do this personal retreat. And what that is when you step away from your daily life and you're just taking time to reflect on where you are in your life right now. So it would be a time to restore, rest, reset yourself, and a time for deep listening, really doing the introspection. It is a bold and courageous act of self-love when you give yourself a personal retreat. So I'm advising if you are having a soul exhaustion right now, if you're in it, take a week off for yourself. If it sounds good to you and you can manage it, do it. Maybe it means you stay home and the rest of the family goes somewhere else for a week, whatever it takes. You need to take a week off, and that's from everything. You need to just get away and let yourself do absolutely nothing. Choose a beautiful place to do it. Perhaps a happy place for you with good memories. Listen to your intuition on the location. And go no contact during this time. No phone, no computer, no electronics. It's just good. That's part of doing absolutely nothing and taking a break from everything. Electronics has actually added dramatically to our busyness in the world today. And bring a book or two. That's a good time to dig into a book you've always wanted to read. Plan on going on a lot of walks. Plan on meditation. So you might want to bring something to help you with that, or doing yoga. The most essential thing to remember about this little personal retreat you take is there's no time limit for healing a tired soul. So a week is not going to pull you completely out of soul exhaustion, but it can begin the process of overcoming it. So you need to be patient with yourself and listen to your intuition, because it's going to guide you towards the root of the problem for you, why you got into a position of soul exhaustion, so you can avoid it. Sort of like when you recognize what the red flags are, you can avoid it in future. Know that your soul is resilient and tough, and it will bounce back stronger than before. It will. When we're willing to pay attention to the cries of our soul, and we can take away anything from our lives that causes us to feel worn out or debilitated, and then replace them, anything harmful, with energizing, uplifting, meaningful experiences filled with beauty, wonder. That's the remedy for a tired, burned out soul, and exactly what each one of us deserves. Right now, I suspect many, many people have it. They're going through it now. And if they weren't before, they're headed into one. So nip it in the bud. Start now. Don't let it get worse. It's only harder to pull yourself out of it. If you recognize soul exhaustion in yourself, take the steps mentioned in this episode to bring it to an end as soon as possible. You do not have to continue feeling like this. Tune in next Sunday. The topic is the best spiritual careers. I'm excited to share that with you. And in the meantime, may your angels surround you every moment, every day of your life. I'll see you next week.